Hey guys, how to make it atheist radical here. So, this topic's going to be a little more serious. This is definitely a much more politically motivated rant. So, here in Canada, specifically here in the province of Ontario, the government is considering and weighing the option of possibly voting or changing the voting age to 16 years old, the minimum voting age. And at first glance, I sat there and been like, you know, is that an option that would be even worth pursuing? And I took like maybe a whole 2 seconds to think about it, and then went, actually, you know what? No, let's not do that. There are a number of reasons as to why. Like, I can always go back to the obvious thing where I know what I was at 16 years old, and I know how my friends were at 16. I know how people around me were at 16, and let's be completely honest. By the time you're 16, you're either in grade 10 or grade 11, at least, in the situation I was in. In grade 10 and grade 11, I'll be completely honest, I don't know anybody that was taking a serious look into politics at that age. And I don't see any of us that actually would have taken that very seriously. And I'm not saying that everybody the age of 16 is either not ready, per se, or not taking politics seriously. Obviously, I'm not saying that, but I fully believe that when you're in high school, there's way too much that you have going on, not to mention that you have to worry about your social life, because in high school, it's never been bigger. There's way too much going on that I think trying to also fit in legitimate political discussion is just, it's not going to work. That's the easy part. That's just I know that I wouldn't be enthusiastic enough, ready enough, even proficient enough to understand what's really going on in politics. But there is one specific, very specific thing that really would worry me if we were trying to teach kids about politics and having them vote at a younger age. And, think about it for a sec. How impressionable are we, especially in our teenage years? We're very impressionable. And what's going on right now in the college university system? You can agree or disagree with this however you want, but there is a clear brainwashing epidemic going on in the college university system from the left. I have no problem. I am a left-leaning libertarian. But what is happening in the university system is far, far left. We're talking extreme left tactics, extreme left ideas are being taught to these kids that are basically just still a sponge at this point. And high schoolers are no different. They are just sponges for content. And when we're talking that of a political nature, I do not trust anyone to go into a high school and properly teach these kids on what every party is about, and making sure that they make their own choice. I guarantee you that the vast majority of teachers will be just like what the university teachers are, trying to pump out an army of extreme leftist protesters. And when you really think about it, what do most of us at that age, what do most 16-year-olds do nowadays? Just like a lot of people, we're consuming so much content on YouTube, on social media. And what do you see on social media? Do you really see the logical and the centric conversations going on? No, you don't. You see the extremes. You see either the extreme left SJW tactics, or you see the extreme alt-right racist, sexist stuff. You don't see the stuff in the center, because the left makes it seem like it's extreme. And when anybody from the left tries to speak properly, anybody from the right will say, oh, well, you're just an SJW, blah, 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 blah. You don't see a centralized talk going on online anymore. Okay, pause. Oh my God. It's starting. Are you kidding me? Really? Okay. I don't think that we have proven in the last, especially 3 years, that we can have a proper conversation, that we can have a proper discussion, a debate where all sides can be etched out. Like it's I don't think we can do that. So my worry is that all that we will get by lowering the voting age is we will get just a bunch of extreme leftists and a bunch of extreme rights. I don't see an improvement in how our system works. And as far as I'm concerned, if you live in Ontario, you know how bad our current premier Kathleen Wynne has been as a liberal. You know that people are looking at lowering the voting age to 16 because those people assume that based on the university system, that based on what will happen if high schoolers are taught, they will just have another army of kids that will go out and vote for them to keep them in office. And that is not how you put laws into place. The laws are not supposed to be put into place to your advantage. They are supposed to be put in place for the advantage of the people. And I don't believe that that's what will happen. I believe that it literally is a liberal agenda trying to improve their chances of staying in office, and that is not what this is supposed to be. So when it comes to actually, let's say that we have to mandate it and it has to be done. What can we do to make it better? And in all honesty, it's really simple, actually. It's extremely simple. There are two connotations that I have. The first one is that when you are putting these kids in high school, you have to give them a separate course specifically for politics and specifically for this kind of deal. Being ready for voting for an election, I still don't trust them to do it, but at least if you enforce the curriculum to be very specific, and they have to go by this curriculum and leave no room for alteration. And even then, I still don't think I could trust teachers with this, because they would just, they'd have to put cameras in the fucking room to be able to prove that there's no collusion going on. But you would have to have a fair class that would describe how each party has thought, what their current stance is, what they've done throughout history, what they've done, on certain issues. You have to be straight up with these kids and tell them, okay, when this prime minister was in office, this is what the main points of were this one. This is what happened when this guy was prime minister. This is what happened when this person was prime. Like, it has to have as much information as you can get into them, so that way they can make an educated decision on what party seems to fall into their beliefs a little bit more. The biggest thing is that when it's election time, what are you going to see from teachers in school? You really think they're going to be all about, this party is doing this party is doing that? You know what they're really going to be like? They're just going to say, well, this is the party I'm voting for. Here's why, and here's why you shouldn't vote for the other ones. That's not what this is supposed to be designed for. That's not how the democratic system works. You're supposed to be taking all sides in. And I fully believe that won't happen. Which is my other thing that I want to be done, is that when you are preparing kids for voting, when you are preparing kids for the eventual elections, and if there doesn't happen to be an election in the year that they're 16, and this is where, because I want this course in grade 10, because I want it early enough that they are able to understand it. Maybe even in grade 9, so that way it guarantees that while they're still 15, they are at least being taught. Actually, you know what? That's probably a better idea. So that way you don't have to worry about an election happening just as the school year starts, for example, and them trying to catch people off guard by, giving teachers only a couple of days to give kids the information they need, aka basically enough time just to say, here's the party you should vote for, whatever. I think one of the major things that you need to do with these kids is to make them take a political compass test. For those of you who don't know what that is, political compass is a long questionnaire that usually takes between 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how much time you really think about it. And it's basically one of the surveys there. It's like, you strongly agree, you strongly disagree. There are 3 options for the agree and disagree. So if there's a really strong, there's a right up the middle on agreeing with it, there's a partial agree, and then there's right in the middle where you're neutral or you just don't really have an answer for it. And after answering all of these questions, you get kind of a good idea of where you stand in the political system. And I never would have known exactly where I stand on most issues, at least in terms of a party, if it wasn't for this site. And I never would have thought to vote Green Party ever in my life. And it turns out that that's mostly where I lie. I never would have thought about it. I thought I was an NDP guy, and turns out that I'm not even close to what the NDP represents. So that's really interesting. And what that test does is it gives you at least a better idea of the grounds that you're working with. That tells you, okay, this is kind of where my beliefs lie, so this is probably the party that suits me best. Now, at that point, like, if it still happens to be that 95% of those kids end up being on the liberal end of things, that's fine, but at least we've now given them the option to see where they actually stand and not just see, where they stand based on what somebody has told them to do. So, that's just my thoughts on the issue. Like, look, I'm not sitting here saying that, there are 16-year-old kids that aren't ready to vote. But the problem is I don't believe, based on my experience all through high school and all through college even, that we are really that involved in politics. Most of us just don't have the time to care because we're still too busy having a social life. We're still too busy just trying to graduate. We're too busy with work. There's so much other stuff. And we're still kids. We're still trying to go out and have fun. So why are we wasting time, taking in political content? Because if there's anything that's probably the least amount of fun, it's fucking politics. So I don't know. I just don't feel like, at least in this current society, that 16 is a good age for voting. I don't think it is, because the track record that we have in society and the track record that we definitely have in the college and university system when it comes to teaching, I don't trust that lowering the voting age is going to do anything except just tilt the scale for one party, and that is not how this is supposed to work. So, with that being said, you guys tell me what you think about this. I know that obviously not everybody is from the same province. Some people are definitely not Canadian. There's a lot of you in the States, a lot of you outside in Europe. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think where you live that lowering the voting age to 16 would be a beneficial idea, or do you have the same kind of concerns that I do? So anyway, thanks for that, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I will see you next time.